All right, so today we are looking at comparing fractions. That means we're going to be looking at if it's less than, if it's greater than, or if it's equal to. Now I know the book says to use the least common denominator, but it will work. However, I am going to show you what I have called the butterfly method. It's easier, it's faster, and it works every time. So use the butterfly. So you can also use comparing fractions to put them in order from least to greatest. Your book is not asking you to do that, but if you were to be asked to do that later on, you could use this method for that. So we are looking at the butterfly method. This is for two fractions, okay? We're not doing the common denominator. So what is the butterfly? The butterfly method is, we're using it when comparing two fractions. We are going to cross multiply, meaning the answer, when we multiply, goes at the top of the numerator that you used. And I'll show you an example here in a minute. Then you only compare the products and then use the original fractions for your final answer. So let's look at a few examples. All right, so let's say we are looking at two fractions. I'm trying to grab a dark pencil or a color you can see. Let's say we're going to compare 3/4 compared to 5/6. Well, the butterfly means the top numerator times the bottom denominator of the other one. So since I use this top numerator, my answer is going on this top. So 3 times 6 equals 18, and that's what I'm going to look at. I'm going to do the same to the other side. So 4 times 5 gives me 20. I'm going to look at that. So now I'm just going to look at 18 compared to 20. And of course, 18 is less than 20. So my final answer, I use the original fractions. I would say 3/4 is less than 5/6. And that would be my answer. All right, if we look at another one, let's say we've got 2/5 compared to 4/9. Okay, using the butterfly. 2 numerator times the other denominator, 9. So 2 times 9 gives me 18. I'm going to do the same to the other side. 5 times 4 is 20. And again, I end up having 18 compared to 20, which is less than. So my final answer, I use the original fractions. 2/5 is less than 4/9. All right, let's say I had another one. Let's say we had 8/9 compared to 7/8. So I use my butterfly to cross multiply. 8 times 8 is 64. I use my butterfly, cross multiply. 9 times 7 is 63. So if I look, I'm going to take 64 compared to 63, which of course 64 is greater than 63. So my final answer would be 8/9 is greater than 7/8. It works for bigger numbers as well. Let's say we've got 11/15 compared to 4/9. So cross multiply. So 11 times 9 makes 99. 15 times 4 makes 60. So 99 compared to 60 is greater than. So 11/15 is greater than 4/9. All right, let's look at your notebook or your textbook questions now. So again, on page 583, you guys are not using the least common denominator. It will work. If you do want to work your way through it, you will get the correct answers, but it's a little longer. The butterfly works much better. So let's come to 585, and we'll do some of these problems. So let's look at the first one. 3/4 compared to 7/8. So if I do my butterfly, 3 times 8 makes 24. 4 times 7 makes 28. 24 is less than 28, so 3/4 is less than 7/8. All right, look at number 3. Cross multiply. 3 times 7 is 21. 2 times 10 is 20. So we're looking at 20 compared to 21, which is less than. So 2/3 is less than 7/10, and that would be my final answer. All right, let's look at number 4. Again, cross multiply. 3 times 7 is 21. 2 times 12 is 24. So I'm looking at 24 compared to 21, which is greater than. So 2/3 is greater than 7/12. And that's my final answer. All right, let's look at the back. Some of these problem-solving examples for us. So number 14, the amount of water 4 runners drank are shown at the right. Who drank the most? So we got to look at our numbers here. So if we compare these, 3/5, oops. This one is actually wanting us to use the least common denominator, that method. So if we're doing the least common denominator, we've got 4 different fractions here. When you have more than 2, you have to do the least common denominator. So a 5, an 8, a 4, and a 10. I know that all of those share a multiple of 40. So I'm going to change them all to fractions with that same denominator, 40. So I know 5 times 8 gets me 40. So 3 times 8 gets me 24. I do the same to the top that I do to the bottom. 8 times 5 gets me 40. So I take 5 times 5, it gets me 25. 4 times 10 gets me to 40. So 3 times 10 makes me 30. And 10 times 4 gets me 40. So 5 times 4 gets me 20. Now I can clearly see I've got all same size pieces. They're all the same denominator. So now I can just look at my top. And I'm looking for who drank the most. So that means I'm looking for my greatest number. So I've got 24, 25, 30, and 20. Clearly, 30 is greater than 24, 25, and 20. So 3/4 matches Keisha. And that's the final answer. 15. A recipe calls for 5/8 cup of brown sugar and 2/3 cup of flour. Which ingredient has the greater amount? So 2 fractions, I can butterfly. So 2/3 compared to 5/8. 2 times 8 makes 16. 3 times 5 makes 15. So 16 is greater than 15, so 2/3 is the greater, which is what we're looking for. So which ingredient? That was the flour. Had the greater amount. 16. A trail mix has a 1/2 cup of raisins and 2/3 cup of peanuts. Which ingredient has the greater amount? Again, 2 fractions, I'm looking for the greater. So I have a 1/2 compared to 2/3. If I butterfly, 1 times 3 gives me 3. 2 times 2 gives me 4. 3 is less than 4. So 2/3 is greater, so which ingredient matches 2/3? That's the peanuts. And that would be my final answer. So when you're comparing 2 fractions, do the butterfly. If you are comparing more than 2 fractions, do the least common denominator, meaning find the multiple that all those denominators share. just like for number 14. I know a 5, the 8, the 4, and the 10, all I could get to was 40. That was the least common multiple. That's their least common denominator. So I changed them to their equivalent fraction by multiplying by a special 1, then looking at the numerators. So I hope this helps you guys out. Make sure you try out these problems and follow along, and I'll talk to you guys later.